Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. This is English Custom Woodworking. Today I'm working on my wood planer. This is a Parks Woodworking Planer. As I said in a previous video about some of the stuff in my shop, I got this planer from my grandpa, who passed it down to my dad and now me. I don't know a whole lot about this planer. I have found some information online. There's a few vintage machinery websites that you can go to, but it has a information plate on it, but it doesn't have a serial number. So I don't know what year it was made. I don't really know where it was made. But anyway, so I use this thing a lot. It's a 12-inch planer. It is runs off 220. And it has 3 blades. It's a 3-blade system. Like I said, they're 12-inch blades, and I use it a lot. So in the past, when I first inherited this, I kind of had to figure out a few things. It's kind of why I'm making this video, is to try to help some of you guys that might have a planer like this or similar to this, and have been trying to figure out how to get it set up, how to use it, how to do a few things to it. So the blades that were on it originally were in pretty poor shape. I tried to sharpen them by hand. Didn't work very well. I found a online sales website called Infinity Knives. I'll put the information on the video down there. I don't have any sponsors, so they don't sponsor me anything, but I've had good luck with them. They make planer knives for this brand, make and model. And a few years ago I ordered just some standard 12-inch knives for this, steel knives, and they worked pretty good, but I was sharpening them all the time. So I work with a lot of barn lumber, and those who work with a lot of different lumber know that especially hardwood barn lumber sits around for years in an old barn, and it gets very, very hard, and this stuff will dull planer knives really fast. So I decided to upgrade to a carbide tip planer knife. Infinity sells this for this specific planer, 3 blades with carbide tip. Run me about $150, so it's about $50 per blade. So it's a little bit steeper than what I wanted to, but I think I'll get more life out of them. I'll have to sharpen them less often, and I'll be a little bit less worried about it. The steel knives that I had on before, if you didn't keep them extremely sharp all the time, especially some of this old dry wood out of barns, it doesn't cut the greatest, and it causes chip out pretty bad. So anyway, today I'm going to replace these blades. I'm going to show you guys how this process works on this, because it was a learning curve for me having to figure out how to do this. So these knives come out, they have 3 set screws, no, I'm sorry, 5 set screws per blade. Let me see if I can try to zoom in. So this planer has 5 set screws per blade. So there's 3 blades. The set screws on this head are 1/4 inch Allen head inserts. So the first time I did this, these suckers were stuck on here really good. So it wouldn't hurt that if you have not done this in a while, maybe put a little WD-40 or some type of lubricant in here on these. Let it sit for a little bit if you're having trouble. I also had a lot of sawdust and wood particulates down in the heads of these. So you might have to take compressed air, wear some safety goggles, because it's going to come shooting out of there. Take some compressed air and clean out the Allen heads, so you're getting a good insert with your tool to get them off. The other thing that I would definitely suggest is that even when these blades are what you think are dull, they're still sharp enough to cut your fingers. Most definitely whenever you sharpen them, they'll cut you. They're not sharp as like a pocket knife, but they're still sharp enough to cut you. So be careful. The other thing too that I would recommend is either unplug this from the outlet, or I actually go so far as I've got a breaker box right here, breaker panel. I turn the breaker off on this so there's no power to it. So then each one of these, you do not have to take these screws all the way out. Basically you just have to loosen them enough. There is, I'll show you in just a second when I get to it, but when you unloosen each one of these, there is a pressure plate that goes, an insert plate that goes in between these set screws and the blade. So what I do is, you can kind of feel it, like it pretty freely. Once you break it loose, it'll freely back out, and then it becomes kind of difficult to turn. So on mine, that basically means that I've gone far enough. Turn each one of them out. And then what I will do is I'll take I can actually see it right there. I don't know if you saw it move, but it moved enough for me to pull it out. And then I can take my finger, or what I've also done is take the corner or the elbow of your Allen wrench and use that tip to pull up on it. That way you don't cut your finger on some of the edges. So this is your blade, okay, with your bevel. So this is your blade with the bevel, and I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but the knives will turn and cut against the opposite of the beveled edge. Then you have this insert, this pressure plate, and you can see where the set screws over years of use have pushed into that and created little indentations. Okay, there's nothing sharp about this, but sometimes you need to clean this and maybe even take a little file and file down any edges, metal edges that set screw has caused the little burrs to pop up, and then just work your way around and pull all three of them out. Now you notice that these came out pretty easy, because I changed these out and sharpened them quite a bit. But if you haven't done this in a long time, or never have done it, it's probably not going to come out that easy. The first time that I took these out, they most definitely did not come out that easy. Once again, be careful on the edges. I can actually turn this just at the right angle here, where if you have to, you can take like a chisel or even a block of wood, would do less damage to a metal blade, and try to tap on the end at an angle to try to work them and get them started out. If you have to, you could probably take a little bit of a lubricant if you think that they're frozen or rusted in or something, and use a little lubricant to help it come out. So I'm gonna take the other three out, or the other two out, I'm sorry, and then I'm gonna get my new blades and I'll show you how to put them back in. So for those of you that are curious, once again, I bought these from Infinity Cutting Tools, and for this model, this Parks model, the Carbide 12-inch by 7/8 by 1/8 is CPJK030. That's the item number. This is how it comes packaged. And there are 3 carbide tipped planer blades. So let's get these installed. So one thing I will definitely say is every planer is different. Even of the same make and model, they're all just a little bit different with use and age. Make sure that if you have an owner's manual, make sure you guys are following the directions for the owner's manual. The owner's manual on this, which I found, I'll show you here in just a second, is very vague. Doesn't have a lot of detailed directions. A lot of stuff I kind of feel like that was made back in the 50s and 60s. These guys just expected you to have a little common sense and a little bit of knowledge about doing stuff hands-on and tools and things like that. But one thing that I will say, that if your blades are so old that if you have lost a lot of height in the blade, you're probably going to have to reset and reposition your roller heads and your heights. That way, over time, you would lose height in your cutting knife, so you'd have to lower your roller heads to make sure you're grabbing your material and moving it through. So basically what I'm saying is, if you put new knives on that are taller and your roller heads are still adjusted at the same height, it's going to want to cut a lot of material with your old setting. So you will need to adjust your roller heads accordingly. Mine were still at pretty decent height that I had adjusted on this machine. Let me see, see if this is in the picture or not. But these adjustments, these taller 4 adjustments, are my lead roller and my exit roller adjustments. And then you can turn these basically, and it'll move your roller, making sure that it's level all the way across, and raising and lowering heights so when it grabs the material. This also affects SNIPE, your in and out cuts. So use your owner's manual to make sure that you guys are adjusting these properly. So let's get these put back in. Basically what I try to do is I will put them in together, so sandwich them together, and hopefully they drop down in. Keep them even across the left to the right. There's a little bit of hangover on left versus right. Make sure that the insert is all the way down and the blade is all the way down. You get a little bit of a flashlight or whatever, but view the very end of the barrel and make sure that the knife is sitting all the way down and resting all the way down. So here it looks good. The knife and the insert are both seated all the way down. So whenever you tighten these back down, I would recommend, very similar to putting your lug nuts back on your vehicle when you take the tire off. I would skip around, do one on each end, and don't tighten it down terribly to begin with. Just kind of get it snug. So on one end, and that way it's not working your blade back up. Like, you looked at the ends to make sure your knives were down. And then if you tighten some of these down too much, well, hopefully it doesn't, but I don't want it to pick up your knife on one end versus the other, and then you go to tighten it and then now they're back uneven again. So I usually just I'm just barely getting these things snug back down. Just barely snug, barely snug, barely snug, barely snug. Okay, then I'm going to give it just a little bit more, and I'm going to work myself around a little bit tighter, work myself down to the other end. Try and get it in. Tighter, middle, tighter, a little bit tighter. A little bit tighter. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and tighten it all the way down. It doesn't come with specs on how tight to get it, but I get it pretty snug. I don't know how snug pretty snug is, but good and hand tight. Definitely don't want these blades of this thing spinning to come out. With 5 set screws, probably not going to happen. Just get them tight. One thing I will say though is if you had to use oil to get them in or get them out, you're probably going to want to wipe off the excess oil and residue, two things. That way it doesn't loosen up on its own over time, and also that way it's not getting all over your work and your wood that you're pushing through here. It's not slinging oil and getting oil all over a product or piece of wood that you've been working on. So this one going in a little bit tighter. Just need to once again make sure that it's getting seated. It hangs out the end probably about almost a 1/16 on each end, at least on mine. I'm going to check, make sure. So this one here, the insert is not fully seated. If you're having trouble getting the blade seated, I would recommend taking a piece of scrap wood and using it as a block and just lightly tapping. That way it doesn't mess up the tip. I'm going to take this punch, which will sit right in that insert, and I'm just going to lightly tap the insert. Make hear the difference in the sound there. Okay, it's all the way down. It's all the way down. And my reveal on my blade is pretty good all the way across. I can tell by just touching these new carbide tip knives that they are super sharp. Okay, so once again, I'm going to work myself across. Lightly tighten, lightly tighten, lightly tighten. Okay, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to snug them up just a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to go snug them up all the way. All right, we're ready for the last one. Sandwich them together. I think I was having trouble the other day, but I think that this insert is slightly warped. It makes it a little bit more challenging getting it in. A piece of wood here. Making sure it's seated all the way down. The insert on this end is not quite seated. So I'm not putting the tip of this on the blade. It's on the insert. Don't want to. You need to be careful. You don't want to mess up the tip of that knife. All right, now it's seated all the way down. Okay, so now I'm just going to go back and spin it. I'm going to make sure that my knives are still seated, my inserts are still seated. Insert on that one is up just a hair. Okay. The last thing I'm going to do is I want to just check this reveal. So the edge of the barrel here, where it touches, I just want to kind of look across to make sure that it looks like it's pretty even. So there's a heavy 1/8 inch reveal. on each one of these. Looks pretty good, looks pretty even. Alright, so those are all tightened back down. Shield back down. Let's try to run a board through and see if they cut any better. So I don't know if you could tell or not, but that absolutely cut smooth as butter. I'm gonna do some more work today in the shop, so I'm gonna run this a little bit, make sure that it's still cutting good. One of the ways that you can definitely tell whether your blades are cutting good or not are the noise or the sound that your planer is making. If it's really having to work hard and it's really having a hard time cutting, it'll be extremely loud, almost screaming. That right there was almost perfectly quiet. Of course, it was a softer piece of wood, but it's cutting really good. So we'll put it to the test today and see how it cuts, and we'll let you know. Once again, thank you guys for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave a message down at the bottom, and I will leave a link to that Infinity Cutting Tools website in the description, and that's where I get all my stuff. Once again, I'm not sponsored from them, but have pretty good luck with them, and glad you guys watched. Give me a thumbs up, appreciate it. See you guys on the next one. Remember, measure twice, cut once.